who are you selling to?
Yeah.
That's an underestimated question, because sometimes it's like, oh, everyone will want this, I'm going to sell this to everyone. But that's not going to help. You need to know exactly who's buying this, because that determines all the decisions going forward.
Mhm.
Is this mothers, young mothers? Is it affordable? Is it luxury? Your kind of decisions will guide our decisions.
Mhm.
And there's a big difference in the little details of that question.
We help people with ideas get them to revenue.
Hey everyone, I'm Aaron.
And I'm Norm, and welcome to the Pitch to Product podcast. We're your hosts and idea consultants at 52 Launch, a company that specializes in turning your product idea into a business.
On today's episode, we are joined by one of our project managers, Paige. Paige, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. She is the one guiding you through every step along the process in our accelerator program.
We actually have a full deep dive into that accelerator program. Head to that episode to learn more. So we're going to get into, the nuts and bolts of project management as a whole, right? But a little bit about 52 Launch, right? We're a company that specializes in design, manufacturing, branding, and marketing, actually turning a product idea that's on the back of a napkin, bringing it to market and to revenue.
Yeah, of course. And to kind of get right into it, Paige, thanks again for coming on. So tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you do here as a project manager.
Yeah. What a lot of people don't know about me is that I actually started on the design team at 52 Launch.
Okay.
So when I was in grad school in Rochester, New York, which is upstate New York, like almost Canada, I got an internship with the industrial design team while I was doing my master's in industrial design. And my bachelor's was actually in industrial engineering, which is like managing systems. I had expressed interest in project management, and I ended up here a year later. So since then, I've been working here as a project manager.
Yeah.
I've had every kind of project that you can think of. We have a wide variety, and I am on the front end and the back end with our clients. So I'm their main point of communication. I give them all of their updates. I'm in all of their meetings with them. And then on the back side, I'm kind of coordinating across all of our different teams. So we have a lot of specialized teams. And for a while, I was doing everything, including marketing and branding and product design. And now, as our company's been growing, I've focused mostly on just design and production, manufacturing.
Yeah. In other words, you do it all.
And speaking of which, why is your role so crucial to creating a product?
Yeah, I mean, besides the client, I'm probably the only person here, me and the other project managers, that have that big picture. So everyone kind of has their heads down doing the work, and you need someone to organize everything, make sure it's on track, coordinate, the design team's working on something that the marketing team needs, and the marketing team's working on something that the design team needs. So it kind of just helps having that person be there to be the client's advocate, and also just to have that continuation through the whole process. Like I'm there from start to finish, like day one until launch. So I think that's just the most important part.
And that's the other thing, right? People don't realize how important it really is to have someone dedicated to the project as a whole from start to finish. Really, when we turn over the idea to the entire team.
Yeah. Speaking of which, kind of carrying on from what Norm just mentioned, what is the first thing, as soon as the client signs on, right? We begin that kind of passover process. What is the first thing that you do with a new client?
The first thing I do is I check the contract every time. I see, what to expect, what we're working with. I will then look at the notes that are passed on from you guys. We have a couple conversations about it. And then I schedule an intro call with the client and another project manager who's doing our marketing. It's just like a get to know you meeting. We'll be working very closely together. So it's nice to kind of get that personal introduction too. I get them set up on all of our systems, answer any questions they have. And then the next meeting is with the full team. And that's where we ask more specific questions and just make sure we're on the same
Same page?
Yeah, the same page.
Yeah.
The same page.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so then we'll do that full kickoff, and then from there, we kind of split into 2 different sides of the process, the design and the marketing.
Right. And some people don't realize how long it really takes to bring a product to market. So can you talk on, that timeline, what it looks like? Obviously, it differs from project to project, but give us kind of a ballpark estimate. When we
Yeah.
start on a project, how long does it usually take?
Well, we're called 52 Launch. It takes 52 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
They're right. Oh,
Yeah.
how's it?
So 52 weeks. If you come with, you've got electrical engineering, you've got all kinds of crazy elements, and it's going to take longer than 52 weeks. It's harder to get shorter than that. We're placing orders right now for Christmas time. So that really gives you an idea. Like mass production and shipping itself takes a couple months. So it's really hard to make it shorter than 52 weeks.
100%.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, right? That's why this company exists, right? We specialize in getting the product to market in just under over a year.
Yeah.
And many times there's, some sorts setbacks, right? You don't understand throughout the process initially, just because it varies from product to product. But it does. It takes a lot of time and effort on the entire team bringing that product to market. And that's what, a couple of or many clients don't really realize when they start with us.
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine how many hiccups there would be throughout a process like this. But over that year-long, sometimes plus long process, how are you keeping a client engaged, right? I mean, because what our finish line is really their kind of their first base, right? It's where the journey really begins when they start selling. So how are you keeping someone on base through this entire program in order to ultimately get to revenue?
Yeah, it's not easy
Yeah.
because, I'm working with a lot of people that are doing a lot of at once, and I'm doing a lot at once. We have this new thing we've been doing, which is every Monday we just internal meetings. It's where I get all my updates. Since I'm in so many meetings, it's hard to gather updates when everyone's kind of running around at different meetings and doing different things. The design team's working on their stuff, and so we have this new thing. It's production Mondays, so we just have a meeting all day. That's where I get all the information I need to update my clients. And the most important part is just being part of every meeting, and I need to know what's going on. So I need to be involved in everything internally also. And it really, really helps having my background in industrial design because I can speak to a lot of the things that we're doing behind the scenes. So even if I'm not the one doing it, I can kind of help educate the client. I have a manufacturing background. I can tell them, this is what's been going on. And not all of our clients have experience in this industry. So that really helps.
Yeah, I've typically find there's a lot of guiding and leading, especially on the manufacturing side, because a lot of people just don't know it. But in regards to kind of our program, would you say that every step is absolutely necessary?
Um, that's a tough question. It depends on the project. Sometimes it is, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Every project's different, whether it's a baby product or a golf product. Paige is definitely seeing it all.
Yeah, 100%. And it's always interesting when we're all working and trying to bring that product to market. How involved would you say the client is, right, in each aspect, each step that we're bringing them through from start to finish?
Yeah, as much as they want to be.
Yeah.
So our clients are the CEO, and some companies have a CEO that's there every single day, down in the dirt with them, and some companies have a CEO where they kind of say, "You guys do your thing. I'm going to lead you from afar." And so, some of our clients like to be really involved. They like being part of every single small discussion, and some of our clients kind of like making the bigger decisions. And they say, "You know what, you guys, I trust your judgment on this one." I wouldn't say that we necessarily prefer it one way or the other because why? I don't know why.
Well, that's the other thing, right? There's a back and forth. There's a push and a pull to each and every client, right? Because each project is different. But that's what we have seen, and it's always interesting to get everybody's feedback Because there's a lot of people that are business owners, right, that start their side hustles with us.
Yeah.
So we can actually, we're actually learning something in return, right? We always say, you're getting our services, but you're also getting our mentorship. There's some clients that are teaching us, something that we don't know. So that's a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot, and you're really learning and growing with the client too. I mean, even to our aspect, I mean, we've known them over a certain number of weeks, but it's years, year plus with you.
Mhm.
Of the big decisions that clients are making, can you kind of go into like what those big decisions are, and what just kind of talk about the impact they might have on on their program?
Yeah. So usually by big decisions, it's things like, who are you selling to?
Yeah.
That's an underestimated question because sometimes it's like, oh, everyone will want this. I'm going to sell this to everyone. But that's not going to help. You need to know exactly who's buying this because that determines all the decisions going forward.
Mhm.
Is this, you know, is this mothers, young mothers? Um, is it affordable? Is it luxury? Those your kind of decisions will guide our decisions,
Mhm.
and there's a big difference in the little details of that question. Smaller decisions that are not as important are little things with materials or mechanisms. There's a million ways to have a clip that goes on something, but the biggest thing that you need to have like that vision for is exactly who are you selling to? Exactly where will this be sold?
Yeah.
You don't need to know the price. The selling price that's a small detail you don't need to know. But is this going to be for you know everyday people? Like what market are you selling to? Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously you have a certain amount of clients, right? So talk to me about the communication between the client and the team, the marketing team, the design team, the manufacturing team. Give us a better understanding of what that back and forth looks like.
Yeah. It's all through me.
100%.
And now our new marketing project manager, Joyce. Yeah, it's all through me. So we a lot of times our designers will be involved in those conversations. They're in the meetings. I'm kind of helping facilitate those conversations. Sometimes when there are technical things going on, I'll let the designer speak to it directly. It's sometimes better if they're working on something that I can't really speak to. But for the most part, all updates go through me. So Sander, for example, is speaking to the factories, and we'll have a conversation internally about what's going on. I'll interpret that and email the client. If the client has more questions, I'll say, let's hop on a call with Sander, and we can walk through it together. For the design team, I'm constantly checking in with them about what's your progress on this? How are you feeling about it? Do you need anything? And then proactively, scheduling meetings based on that and telling the client, this is what's going on, or maybe it's taking a little longer and I'll explain this is why it's taking a little longer than it usually does. Or, hey, we'd like to skip ahead a step because
Right.
we're feeling good about where we are and et cetera. So, yeah, that's a lot of why my job is so important is because it's all going through me.
Right. And ideally, how involved do you like the team to get on these calls, right? When they're talking to the client, and there's that's you having that back and forth, right? Do you like to include the team when they're talking directly to the client, or do you think is it better for them to just to do their job and to just to give their deliverables?
Um, yeah, the more they're doing their job,
Mm,
the better. But sometimes it's necessary. So I will, as much as I think is necessary, give them emails, updates. And sometimes I know that it's better that it comes from them instead of me. So
right.
it's kind of a judgment call. But for the most part, if it can be said in an email or if I need to hop on one-on-one with a client and explain and I have the capacity and the understanding to do so, then I will. If not, then it is helpful to group in the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's hard just from a podcast to kind of paint the picture and how crucial your role is here. But when you do take on a new client, right? They're going through the process. What are some of those typical roadblocks or even misconceptions that a client might have when developing a product?
Yeah. The biggest roadblock is always time.
Mm,
It's always time.
yeah,
People wanna I get it. They're investing a lot of money. They wanna launch as soon as possible. They wanna get it on the market and start selling. Um, there's always it's always something that's going to impact time.
Mm.
Always. I've never had a project where we have not had a single roadblock that has affected time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's small and sometimes it's bigger.
Mm.
But the biggest misconception probably is that we only have so much that's in our hands. Everything we do in-house, so all of the branding, the logo, the design, everything to get you to the factory, I can tell you exactly how long that's going to take.
Yeah.
We have full control over that. I can talk to the team and be like, hey, what's going on? Why is this taking so long? Push them along. As soon as it's in the factory's hands, we don't have control of that timeline. And sometimes there's a lot going behind the scenes that we don't have transparency to, that I don't have the ability to give my clients transparency to. So whether it's quoting takes a lot longer than you think it does, because it's in the factory's hands. It's not just like going to the store, picking out this, how much does this cost? Here you go, here's the price. They're analyzing every single component, every mechanism. They're figuring out not just how can I make this, how can I make one? They're saying, how can I make thousands of these efficiently on an assembly line? So it takes a lot of time, and it usually takes longer than the clients want it to take. And we can't always tell them exactly what the factory's doing, especially with the time difference. So if they're waiting for a sample, if they're waiting for quoting, if they're waiting for tooling or mass production, there's so many things that can happen that we don't have the ability to see and control. And what I would say to that is just that we're speaking to the factories every day and we're doing our best. But that's the biggest kind of roadblock that we see is just time, speed, quality, price. If you're making something that's a good price and it's a good quality, it's going to take some time to get there.
There's a lot of uncertainty, right? When you're launching your product. So how do you really talk to our clients about overcoming that uncertainty when launching something new?
Yeah, our clients need to be doing work outside of us. They need to be doing their research. And not to say they have to be, spending every minute of their free time, because we do handle a lot, but they need to be exploring other avenues outside of us. They need to be reaching out to friends and family and networking and finding, social media pages and groups. And there's going to be a time when we're not working with them anymore.
Right.
And so you need to be prepared to be your own CEO.
Yeah. And quite honestly, that's really when our partnership starts, right? Because, our clients are not contractually obligated to stay with us long term, but it is up to us to win their business every single day. And that's the same thing with, our digital marketing team, our manufacturers. That's the biggest thing to keep in mind here is we obviously want to create a long-term partnership with these clients. But we love to be their back end. And in order to grow, we need to truly grow together. So a lot of this is learning to become an entrepreneur. And that's why it's so incredible when we have people that are entrepreneurs that are just getting into e-commerce and truly want to grow and have us assist them growing.
Yeah, no, I couldn't have said it any better myself. Because even as me taking on my own, it's from the manufacturing, the marketing, branding side, I'm learning so much. But obviously, you've had your fair share of the projects that you've seen. A number of them have graduated, right? Of the ones that you've kind of seen through the process, what would you say is really your favorite product?
It's so hard to say. The best part about my job, I'm a hobbyist. Love sports, music, art, you name it. I just love trying new things, and I love we touch on every single, even things like industries that I have no idea about. I just love the variety. I love how many different industries we work in. So without picking a favorite client, I don't want to do that to my clients. So my clients.
Fair enough.
I'm not going to call them out.
Fair enough.
But my favorite types of clients are the ones that really, like I said earlier, just they're doing work outside of the accelerator.
Right.
And I end up with a lot of baby products. I'm our only female design and production project manager. So naturally I get a lot of the feminine products. And our team is an expert in product development. We're not an expert in babies. Like we don't have all the research on babies or skincare or whatever you name. So Like, my favorite clients are the ones that come to us and they say, this is all the research I've done on babies. I know babies. I've interviewed people. My friends are testing it. Like, you need to do that outside of our program. And so those are my favorite types of projects, because we have the ability to make the best decisions when they're doing the work, when they're making the best decisions.
So that group of clients, you would say research is truly the defining factor when it comes to a successful launch.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just commitment. And you can tell who's really passionate about it and who is going to succeed afterwards, just by how much they're putting into our partnership as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
We always say, it's 30% the project, right? 70% the entrepreneur.
Yeah.
How true is that in your
It's very true.
Yeah.
Very true.
So closer to 80-20 or 90-10?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Again, it depends on
Yeah.
a lot of things.
It does. It does depend on a lot of things, really.
Yeah.
But
Excellent. So what would you say your favorite part of your job is?
The obvious answer is launch day. So fun. We make it really exciting. We have like a little party, and it's so fun seeing, people reach the finish line. Usually they're like, oh, it's been so long. Yeah, it's fun. But I would probably say my favorite part, especially coming from a design background, is earlier when we're kind of we're taking an initial idea, maybe there's some constraints, maybe people have an idea of what they think it's going to look like, and doing the design reviews. I really love it because our design team is so good at being creative and coming up with new things. And I love surprising a client when they're like, I didn't even think of this. Or this is better than I thought. Or, oh, maybe I should consider doing this instead. And we really do like a mild to wild process at the beginning. So I love when we kind of take it somewhere different than the client even thought.
That movement in the beginning really, it definitely rings true. I mean, it's incredible to see. And to see everybody come in and realize that there's no AI, there's just a lot of hardworking individuals working around the clock, bringing those products to market every single day. That's a really cool moment for Aaron and I to actually meet them in person, to bring them through, not just the studio, but, the marketing department, the design firm department, right? That's a pretty cool moment for Aaron and I. And especially to actually see the product or the pre-production sample in their hands for the first time.
That's a fun part.
That is a fun part.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So a lot of times we have clients that come in, think they're a couple steps ahead, right? They have designs or they have a CAD file that, maybe someone did off of Upwork, right? What do you say to those clients? Because obviously, design to manufacture is extremely important. We need to make sure those designs, the design team and the manufacturing team work cohesively. So speak to me about that, that issue right there.
Yeah. What I would say is that in all the time I've been at 52 Launch, I haven't had a single client where we've taken their CAD and it's ready to go, and we say, here you go, factory. Here's the design, make it. There's 10 out of 10, maybe 99% of the time, we're doing work to get it manufacturable, whether it's work to the CAD or just a lot of back and forth with the factory. There's usually some kind of change that needs to be made, even if it's minor. And what ends up happening a lot of the time is we come up with a better design and we make some more changes. It's hard if somebody has a patent, but we do that a lot too, where somebody has a patent and they refile. It's not a huge deal if you refile your patent. But yes, you're ahead if you come to us with CAD and like a ready to go design, but it doesn't always mean that we're just going straight to the factory. We're skipping all those steps. Usually still means going through all those steps. It just might be a little faster.
So what happens, from your point of view, when someone brings to you a certain level of work, right, and they don't feel like they need to redesign it? Like mine is just a tallow skincare product, not a whole lot to it. How are you talking to the client? What kind of steps are you taking in something like that where they've already done a pretty significant level of work?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we'll always meet with the client and go over our expectations with the design team. Usually we'll sit down internally and kind of come up with a plan. But sometimes when you're ahead, it doesn't mean that you're ahead. It just means that we start at that stage instead of starting at the exploratory design phase.
Right.
So most times, almost every time, we start with something that's in the DFM stage.
Mhm.
We usually spend a significant amount of time kind of going through everything that's there and then kind of adjusting, doing our own work to make it compatible with our factories.
Right.
Because sometimes what people do with other freelancers or agencies isn't really compatible for the factories that we are in communication
Yeah.
with.
Yeah. I mean, the DFM process is super, super crucial. How important would you say the exploratory phase is to every new client going through this process?
Extremely important.
Yeah.
Extremely. That's where so many crucial things come up that, I mean, that's really determines your entire business, your entire product. Um, Sometimes we will present something that the client loves. And like I said before, oh, I didn't think of this. And sometimes it brings up questions about maybe a mechanism that the client was previously thinking about using. And we've determined through our own research, we don't think this is the best mechanism to use. It's going to cost a lot of money, or we don't think the user experience is going to be what you want it to be. So a lot of it's really important that it's exploratory. It's
Mhm.
really important to consider everything
Yeah.
because you don't want to get to sampling and say, oh, what if we thought of this instead?
Yeah.
You just lost
Yeah.
6 months to a year if you're doing that. So
Yeah. And that's a huge setback.
yeah,
It's a huge setback,
yeah,
and you could potentially price yourself out of the market
yeah,
if you go with a latch or a mechanism that is
Right.
like really expensive. So
yeah,
it's a very scientific process, but it's the way that it is for a reason.
Oh yeah, we have to make sure that we're creating a low cost per unit with a product that has high margins in it. It's we've got it down to a science, but each product is different. The way we go about it is different. So we want to make sure that the customer has a very, very good understanding that if they come in with designs, most likely we're going to have to go into redesigning it
yeah.
because the product is not going to survive on the marketplace.
No.
We need to make sure it's going to sell and sell really well online.
Yeah. And once you finish this program, you are ready to scale and ready really to sell the masses. And frankly, there's nobody better than you to guide our clients through this process in order to get to revenue.
When we're talking to clients, we make sure to cover, how we bring a product to market, right? But we also touch upon how you're not just getting our services, right? You're getting a whole lot of mentorship throughout the process. That's why we've brought all these in-house professionals in underneath one roof. So speak to me about, not everybody has done this a million times, right? There's a lot of people that are doing this for the first time. So talk to me about how your mentorship carries somebody throughout the entire process.
Yeah, absolutely. We're not getting hired by agencies like Nike and Netflix, and we're getting hired by everyday people
Mhm.
who have other jobs, and this is their first time doing this. So that's something that is a huge part of my job as well, which is explaining to them everything that's going on, guiding them through it. Um, my clients, I always encourage them to ask me questions, even if you think it's, a lot of times they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I think this is a dumb question." I'm like, "There's no dumb questions. Like everybody's new at this. Um, we'll talk you through everything. I'll do my best to talk my clients through every single stage of the process, how it's going to work, what they can expect. But yeah, it's a huge part of working with us. It's a huge benefit. You don't need to know what everything means. You don't need to know what CAD means or the difference between sampling and tooling and prototyping, and we'll talk you through every single step of the way.
So you kind of hinted on this before, right? On like the more research you do, the more of a seller that you become, the better this process is, the more
Mm.
excited the team kind of gets in. But let's just say there's somebody who has a really phenomenal idea and they have no experience with product development whatsoever. What kind of advice would you give that person? And then I guess as a follow-up question, what should somebody know before working with 52 Lunch?
Yeah, I would say don't underestimate what experience you do have.
Mhm.
Sometimes people have experience with things that they don't think is relevant, and it is
Yeah.
in ways that they don't really realize. Um, I mean, again, I keep making this point, but just doing your research,
Yep.
making sure that um you're prepared, and you need to have like that overall vision. You need to know where you want to take this instead of just kind of leaving it open-ended. Like, yeah, we'll see where it goes. That's not a good way to be successful, is let's see where it goes. And you could tell the design team, yeah, do what you want, come up with something creative.
Yeah.
But you can't really do anything with that.
Yeah.
You need some kind of direction. So just being prepared in that way. What was your second question?
And what should somebody know before working with 52 Launch? Was my follow-up.
What should somebody know?
Well, we are a go fast company.
We are a go fast
Yeah.
company, and the year is pretty fast for what you're doing. I mean, there's so many stuff, so many things going on.
So many factors.
Yeah, there's so many factors. I mean, and I'm glad you touched upon the behind the scenes manufacturing, because there's like, we talk to people for quoting, and that, I didn't realize how long that took.
It's not always. Sometimes it's like a week. Sometimes it's like a month.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Always
it
depends on the
really.
project.
Yeah, and a decent amount of that is sourcing too. So there's negotiations that are being had. There's, we might be talking to 4 or 5 different factories and saying, hey, you gave me this quote. This factory gave me this quote. What can you do? Or like, this one has a higher quote, but they're a lot better quality. Or there's a lot that goes into it.
Right. Yeah.
What somebody should know,
Yeah.
going back to your question, just they need to be ready to make decisions.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
probably the biggest thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and be quick to make them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And be responsible for your decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to redesign, if you're not happy with the direction we're going in, it's not, not to sound like harsh, but it's not really our design team's fault if it takes an extra couple months to do a redesign.
Yeah.
So, you have to make weighted decisions. You have to think about everything that comes with those decisions. And usually it's the right decision, but you just have to be prepared. Everything takes time.
Yeah.
Everything.
It's like working a muscle. It's you get used to it, because then once you're in revenue, right? Once you've actually launched, you're going to be making a lot more decisions, right? So this is really just a wake up call. But Paige, I really want to thank you for coming on today and talking to everybody regarding, what's it like working at 52, being a project manager, all the ins and outs of this. And it was an absolute pleasure having you on.
Yeah, it was great being here. Thanks, guys.
We'll see you in the office. We hope you enjoyed watching this podcast as much as we enjoyed filming it. If you want to learn more about 52 Launch, click these videos here. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pitch to Product podcast. And if you have a product idea, head to the show notes, click the link to 52launch.com, and book a free consultation with us.